Hello students, welcome you all. So as we start this mains answer writing program, for the first day I have given you a question that is related to India's climate, because whether it be your TGPSC or APPSC, you will be having a first unit which is related to your physical geography, and this is also useful for your UPSC preparation as well. And as we move further, I will be trying to guide you through the UPSC exams as well, UPSC civil service exam, because we are supposed to complete our UPSC prelims the coming Sunday. So let's get in. Now discuss the role of Tibetan Plateau on India's climate. So as we try to understand this question, discuss the role of Tibetan Plateau on India's climate. So let's say now this is for your 10 marker question, wherein you are supposed to give your proper intro related to as to what and where this Tibetan Plateau is, and the kind of impact it is having on India's climate. So that will be your intro with somewhere around 40 to 50 words. So now as we try to understand, you can just say that Tibetan Plateau, which is considered to be the roof of the world, which is at an average elevation of 4,500 meters above the mean sea level, which is beyond or which is to the north of Himalayan mountains. And this Tibetan Plateau plays in such a way that it is trying to impact Indian monsoon system as well as the regional atmospheric circulations. So this is how you try to give your intro. Now moving further into the body part. So in your first intro, the major keywords will be your average height, the location of this Tibetan Plateau, and you also says that the Tibetan Plateau's role in India's climate is, one is it is impacting your Indian monsoon system, as well as it is also impacting your regional atmospheric circulations. So these are your keywords which you can put in your intro for about 40 to 50 words. Moving further, your body. Within your body, yes, as you inform that this is going to impact your Indian monsoon system as well as your regional atmospheric circulations. So you can just try to, you can divide them into two forms, as one is Indian monsoon system and regional atmospheric circulations. And specifically, if I try to talk about your monsoon system, yes, this Tibetan Plateau, which is to the north of Himalayas at a high elevated region, this becomes a heat source. It is a source for generating great amount of heat across that region, because across that specific latitudes beyond that 25 degrees north latitudes, this Tibetan Plateau, which is present at a higher elevation, absorbs good amount of sun's insolation or the sun's radiation, and keeps its greater amount of heat across that region for a longer period of time, due to which the Tibetan Plateau has been heated up and the atmosphere close to that region has also been heated up, due to which there is a phenomenon of low pressure conditions prevailing within that Tibetan region. So diagrammatically, if I want to explain it in a different form, as an explanation, not as an answer, see, let's say now this is a part of your Indian, this is a part of your Indian landmass, and towards this north of your Himalayas, this region is your Tibetan Plateau region. And this Tibetan Plateau, as we have informed in our intro, it is a high elevated region. And this region is receiving good amount of snow during winters, and it is completely dry, where the amount of vegetation is very, very minimal. So most of the Earth's surface is very much barren and is exposed to the sun's insolation. And specifically during summer months, if you can recollect the geographical concept, you have your Tropic of Cancer somewhere across this region. The sun will be having its vertical sun's insolation across Tropic of Cancer by the time of June 21st. So this northern hemisphere region receives almost vertical sun rays, making sure there is greater amount of heat which has been absorbed by the land across the region. And this Tibetan landmass, which is at a higher elevation and barren, it heats up immensely, due to which there is a creation of low pressure. And this low pressure is now considering it to be as a source of heat. See, generally the pressure belts, which is equatorial low pressure belt, shifts towards north and settles along your northern parts of India. That's what we read with regard to Indian monsoons. And apart from this presence of this low pressure belt along your Ganga plains, because of the prevalence of your low pressure system and a greater amount of heat which has been generated across that Tibetan plateau, yes, this region is becoming as one of the crucial, it is trying to may act as a very good crucial entity to strengthen the low pressure conditions prevailing in northern parts of India, and also to bring in good amount of southwesterly winds, that is your moisture laden winds from the Indian Ocean waters. So apart from this low pressure system which is present, the low pressure belt which is present, this presence of low pressure across your Tibetan plateau is strengthening this low pressure belt, and so as to bring good amount of monsoonal winds into India. So now you can just say that this is a heat source where there is prevalence of low pressure system. There is a low pressure system which has been built within this Tibetan highland region, mostly during summers, which is why it is acting as a agent to strengthen the low pressure belt and bring in good amount of moisture laden winds to the higher latitudes. Done. So heat source and presence of low pressure belt and presence of low pressure conditions within the Tibetan highlands, these low pressure words acting as a heat source can be your keywords, and bring in good amount of southwest monsoonal winds or southwest moisture laden winds. No, forget about your monsoonal wind. Southwest moisture laden winds. These are your keywords in your first part. Next, within this monsoon itself, within this Indian monsoon system, yes, the southern parts of your plateau do have good amount of high elevated Himalayan mountains, which is acting as a barrier. See, it is something like this. Give me a minute. I'll just clear this. Yeah. Now, this Tibetan plateau is playing in a role. It's playing actually a dual role. Why do I say it's playing a dual role? It is acting as a barrier for your winds and winds across that region, as well. It is also acting as a deflector within that region. As we move further, I'll try to talk about it. See, the reason I say is, this Tibetan plateau, initially it is acting as a heat source, and now as I talk about your barrier, yes, you have your tall towering Himalayas, and then you have a plateau to the northern higher latitudes. Now what is happening? The moisture laden winds which are coming into these regions of Himalayas are getting updrafted and getting condensed. The moisture laden winds getting condensed to form good amount of clouds, and the southern slopes of Himalayas receives good amount of heavy to heavy amount of rainfall. So that is one wherein it is acting as a barrier of one form. And apart from that, it is also acting as a barrier from the cool and cold chilling winds from the Siberian region, specifically during winters. So it is wherein from the Siberian region, the cool and cold breezes which are coming from your Siberia have been obstructed by this plateau and the regions of Himalayas, because of which the Indian subcontinent is having a much livable conditions prevailing across your Indian subcontinent. So it is acting as a barrier. And the other role, apart from this role of dual role as a barrier, apart from this, it is also acting as a deflector. That's what I told you, right? One is barrier, the other one is deflector. If I want to understand this deflector, let's get into this next part of your answer, that is regional atmospheric circulation. Yes, I mean this regional atmospheric circulation wherein you have westerly disturbances, western disturbances which have been deflected, and then you have westerly jet streams in the higher latitudes which are again being deflected. Let's talk about your westerly jet stream. Yes, because of this this westerly jet stream, during the onset of monsoon, this westerly jet stream moves towards to the north of Tibetan Plateau, shifts towards to the north of Tibetan Plateau, and during this winter time, this westerly jet stream in the higher altitudes shift towards south. So there is movement of your westerly jet stream which is trying to derive or which is trying to help the onset and the withdrawal of monsoons. Yes, and the western disturbances which are coming from your Mediterranean waters are being impacted because of the kind of pressure systems which are prevailing along your Tibetan region. Mostly during this regions of winter time, yes, the Tibetan region has got a high pressure conditions, due to which the easterly winds and the other surface winds play a role in such a way that the western disturbances have been dragged towards the southern parts of Himalayas and hitting the southern parts of Himalayas and undergoing this orographic, making sure that it is having an orographic obstruction. Himalayas act as an orographic obstruction, and the moisture gets updrafted, and then you have good amount of heavy to heavy amount of precipitation in the form of snow. And apart from that, you have good amount of cool to cold breezes and cooler temperatures prevailing in northern parts of India. So it is acting as a barrier and it is acting as a deflector for your western disturbances as well as westerly jet streams. Moving further into this answer, you can also say that there is an impact of climate change, because we are here for discussion, right? So climate change is also impacting the climate of India. The moment there is a change in the climatical condition, the temperatures prevailing across your Tibetan Plateau do differ, due to which the albedo of your Tibetan Plateau differs, and the temperatures and the pressure conditions do differ, as well as the rate of melting of snow and the glacial outbursts, the frequency of glacial outbursts increases, due to which, yes, you might have a change in the pattern of monsoonal rains. You may have a change in the flow of waters within the river systems, specifically the rivers which are originating to the north of Himalayas, moving towards Indian subcontinent, specifically like rivers like Indus and its tributaries, and the rivers like Brahmaputra and its tributaries, and due to which there is a change in the agricultural activities, and at times there are also presence of, due to this events, there are a phenomenon called floods, there is a phenomenon called droughts do prevail due to the changes within your Tibetan Plateau. So on a general note, yes, the Tibetan Plateau during summers should receive good amount of sun's insolation. It should be heated up at a certain extent, and you should have good amount of presence of low pressure along the surface, helping or strengthening the Indian monsoons, arrival of Indian monsoons into Indian subcontinent. And later, the easterly jet streams and the presence of high pressure system across Tibetan Plateau helps in the withdrawal of Indian monsoon system during autumn period. And the extensions of your, because of the presence of Tibetan Plateau, there is deflection of your westerly winds, western disturbances, as well as the westerly jet streams. So these are all the keywords leading to the changes in the albedo leading to changes in the flood conditions, drought conditions. So these are your keywords within your body. Now moving further, I mean, you spoke about the kind of influence, you spoke about the kind of impact. The impact is floods, droughts, extreme events like heat waves. These are all your impacts. Now moving further, conclusion. So within this conclusion, what can be your conclusion? I mean, as you said in your impacts, there are extreme events, there are heat waves and all. You should say that this understanding of this role of Tibetan Plateau on Indian climate and helps you to, as you try to understand in a much better manner, it helps you to predict and reduce the adversities causing across your Indian subcontinent due to the changes in the recent past, specifically during the climatical changes, and also help in creating a good amount of adaptation strategies, because you are given a choice to discuss, right? So because of which you say that there is influence of your Tibetan Plateau on Indian's climate, you talk about your impact, and then you can also suggest good amount of measures, or you can just conclude saying that yes, this is a much better manner wherein by understanding the impacts you can try to create a good amount of adapting strategies. Well, so that's how we can end this answer with this specific conclusion, which is futuristic. So that's all for now. So do what do you call it, the subscribe or whatever you do, so that you will be getting proper updates, and also you can join in my Telegram channel if you are watching this for the first time, so that you will be getting proper updates as to what question is being asked, and you can try writing those answers as well. So now I will be posting this answer as well as a PDF in the description. Thank you very much. Bye bye.